Hello, this is a Brave Knight Mercenary spotlight on Rean. Both Rean and his companion Juna are collaboration characters from The Legend of Heroes Hajimari no Kisekai, which is a fairly recent installment of the Legend of Heroes series. Rean specifically debuted as the protagonist of Legend of Heroes Trail of Cold Steel, which spans 4 games. For the sake of spoilers of these heavy narrative-driven games, I won't be going over too much into Rean or Juna. Just know that Rean is a pretty cool guy. Wields a katana, all the girls love him, all the guys love him too. Sounds familiar perhaps? If you never played a Legend of Heroes game or you've never even heard of it before, just know that Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky is probably my favorite RPG ever. The charming characters, incredibly witty dialogue, and very interesting plot and world building made for one of the most memorable and colorful experiences I've had in a JRPG. Highly recommend it. Cold Steel on the other hand ranges from okay to decent. I'll briefly go over Rean's skills, gameplay style, and provide some of my opinions on him. I won't be going over the details of his skills, but just the general parts of it. I linked the Brave Knight Encyclopedia in the video description. Wait a minute. Collaboration characters are not listed in the website, so you have to go into the in-game encyclopedia to view what they do. Rean's first skill is Arcane Gale. This is Rean's permanent multi-hit skill. Rean will have its attack slightly reduced, but will be able to attack twice. At plus 6 and above, Rean no longer has his attack reduced, and instead gains permanent attack. Rean's second skill is Breaking Dawn. Before normal attack, Rean removes all removable buffs. This skill pretty much works exactly like a nullifier. Breaking Dawn also comes with a sub-skill called 8 Leaves, 1 Blade. Rean deals 4 instances of additional damage based on his attack stat. Remember that he also attacks twice due to Arcane Gale, so he totals for 8 sources of additional damage. Rean's third skill is Crimson Slash. Rean applies a DOT after his normal attack that scales with his attack stat. This DOT is stackable. The skill also disables an enemy's casting state. If Rean hits a mage that already charged up, that mage will have to charge up again. Rean's awakening skill is Spirit Unification. At battle start, Rean transforms and boosts all of his stats by 70% except his HP. In his transformation state, he is also immune to debuffs. Spirit Unification lasts for a total of 3 of Rean's own turns. At plus 15, Rean boosts all of his stats by 100% instead of 70%, excluding his HP, and his transformation lasts for a total of 4 of his own turns now. Rean is an all-rounder warrior with a lot of interesting defensive and offensive utility in his kit. Rean gains a lot of stats on his own during his transformation and will be in a pretty powerful state within the first 3 or 4 rounds of the game. He is the only character in the game with a unique ability to lock out a mage's ability to attack, which can come in very clutch in situations where Rean cannot kill a mage. This may not seem very good in theory at first, because an argument could be made that it's better to just simply kill the mage as opposed to prevent it from casting. But a lot of units have various matchups against mages where they can kill some mages but cannot kill others. Rean universally has a good matchup against pretty much any mage. Another thing that sets Rean apart from others is his large amount of damage sources. With a total of 2 normal attacks and 8 additional damages along with the DOT, Rean is very good at playing around units with mechanics that factor in multiple damage sources such as Seto or Jin. Last but not least, he also has his own DOT and nullifier abilities. Rean's main weakness is his inability to deal with 100% defense units, and all of his damage is still affected by incoming damage reduction. Many units nowadays have either defense ignore or barrier ignore, but Rean has neither, so a lot of his damage is liable to being blocked. Rean should also not be seen as an offensive-focused warrior in the same way that Balze, Alec, or Gunther is, but rather Rean falls more on the side of Siegmund, where his hybrid offensive and defensive capabilities are his distinguishing factors. Rean does not depend heavily on buffs, for he already buffs himself a lot with his transformation. Because he could reach 100% defense on his own and he has debuff immunity for the first 3 or 4 rounds, he's pretty versatile in his positioning and can function as a pseudo-tank. His utility and his skill set is not dependent on buffs either. Rean's preferred runes are generally Assault and Rage mixed ones due to his ability to reach 100% crit rate on his own. Mixed Assault and Rage runes will improve his damage by a large amount and give him plentiful amounts of additional damage. Regular Assault is fine as well. You generally want 1 flat rune and 1 assault rune for Rean, but if you can bother to rank boost him, then he may reach a state where you just want 2 percentage runes instead, for higher stat yields. If your Rean is plus 14 or below, you may want to run 1 shield rune so he can reach 100% defense on his own. Also, in the situation where you fight against Celia, you still want to run a shield rune even if you have a plus 15 Rean to compensate for a curse aura. I'll go over what Rean counters. With multi-hits and multiple damage sources and a DOT, Rean does exceptionally well against Jin. Jin's main weaknesses are both DOTs and a lot of damage sources, but Rean is capable of dealing both. Jin is capable of reflecting up to 5 sources of additional damage, but Rean can do up to 8. As a result, Rean gets 3 full hits onto Jin. Jin has to bank on Banaka to stay alive, in which Rean can still do a lot of damage to Banaka. Also, there is the DOT as well. Rean also has naturally good matchups against most mages in the sense that he could deny them the ability to attack. Preventing a Velfern or Celia from decimating your composition is very clutch sometimes. With Galania buff or Belieth buff, Rean is also a very viable way to deal against Seto. Rean can hit Seto for up to 10 ticks of his Flame Guard, which will put him in kill range. If Seto already took damage prior, then Rean will finish him off. Even without Galania or Belieth buff, Rean will deal 5 ticks of Flame Guard damage to Seto, but will still die due to Seto's fixed damage counter. Speaking of Galania or Belieth, Rean has his own form of buff removal before normal attack, which is essentially just a nullifier skill. He can remove any removable buffs, which gives him some utility against Rapithia, Belieth, and Galania. Rean's multi-hits of 2 hits isn't very impressive, but it's still better than 1. This gives him some better matchups against the likes of Yuri and Lucius. Last but not least, he could generally kill most squishy units on his own. His DOT is particularly good against Banaka compositions, but his base damage is good enough for the general warriors that lack survivability like Balze, Alec, Christina, and etc. He can do a lot of damage, even to the point of popping Mammonier's first shield. Rean also makes for a very decent tank against units that are easily blocked by 100% defense units or rely on debuffs to function. Bane, Kaelin, Celia, Christina, Yuri, Catherine, and Nerua will have some issues against Rean. Even Rean himself will have issues fighting other Reans. I'll now go over what counters Rean. Any source of fixed damage, defense ignoring, or direct damage will bypass Rean's defense boost during his transformation and kill him through it. Seto, Siegmund, Gunther, Dalvi, Orfina, Velfern, Levia, Alec, Balze, Eden, Nartis, Asmode, and Ludmilla are capable of taking them out. In a situation that Rean is just left alone, he's very weak once his transformation expires and will be prone to dying to almost anything. Rean is also easily blocked by any units with high amounts of defense or some guards of other damage control. For defense, Orfina, Levia, and most Sola buffed units with a defensive aura comes to mind. For guards, Arcan and Kaelin are 2 options. For others, Calarone and Bane can hold him off. Rean also suffers a lot against units that heal based on incoming damage. The most prominent case of this is Grant Hilder, but Cowley also has this mechanic as well. So some synergies with Rean. Rean is pretty flexible and works in most compositions. That's pretty much why he's like an actual RPG where he's from too. Rean is a warrior, so he does have some synergy with Banaka in a warrior-based composition. His ability to dress Jin better than most units is a welcome addition to Banaka compositions as a whole, who often are easily blocked by enemy Jins. Okay, so for my opinion, first and foremost, as far as JRPG's protagonist goes, Rean is pretty cool. I like his jacket, and I think he's a pretty grounded character. I like him enough to pull on him and max him out, but I definitely do not think that Rean is a groundbreaking character by any means. Sure, stopping mages is a cool thing that no character can do yet, but there's another unit that targets back tiles that generally kills the mages, and her name is Balze. Now Balze is a legendary and Rean is a regular 5-star, so not the most fair comparison, but there's another argument to be made that Rean will be rarer than Balze in the near future, and I'll make that point later. Rean's transformation shenanigans is cool and gives him a lot of versatility and damage, but he still dies to a plethora of things if Banaka is not on his team. In this current meta, having 100% defense and debuff immunity is not sufficient enough to be called durable, but it's more than what most other units have to offer, I guess. Rean's main issue is that he only beats very few units currently in the game that other units might struggle with, which is primarily Jin currently. He does a few other things as well at the cost of just being kind of mediocre at most other situations. When a unit's viability hinges on the popularity of another, it becomes kind of tricky to recommend that unit. If there is a future where Jin or Banaka composition loses viability, then Rean will suffer. This is the case involving Eleanor, who was really good on her release primarily because Seto and Lucius were the best units at their time. But once those units fell in popularity, Eleanor fell down really hard. So should you build Rean? My answer is no. This character is like a toy. He's very fun to play around with, but definitely not a game-changing character. And that's fine, because there's an elephant in the room to address with Rean, and that he's a collaboration character. Collaboration characters are only available for a set amount of time before they're gone, and once they're gone, you can't pull for any more of their companions, or for your first copy of the character if you haven't obtained it yet. You missed your shot unless they rerun the collaboration event, and no such thing has ever happened yet in Brave 9. Fortunately, the game gives you 1 copy of Rean for free right from the start, and the event dungeon gives you 1 copy of Juna, which is his companion. The rest of the 4 Junas must be obtained in the gacha, as there is no fate system involved with the companions for the collaboration characters this time around. When it comes to investing in Rean, any skill level is fine generally. Rean is a character that's hinging a lot on his utility, but doing more damage is nice that comes with more skill levels. Reans at plus 14 or below can slot one shield rune to keep him at 100% defense, and Reans at plus 15 or above, well, just plus 15 I guess, have the luxury to go full offense in runes. If you're on the fence and your resources are limited, do not get baited by Rean. This collaboration is for two kinds of people, and they are people who are somehow still playing this game after 2 years and have nothing to spend their scrolls on since they already collected most of their desired characters, and people who are a fan of Legend of the Hero series. I happen to fall under both, which is why I'm building him up, but I don't see myself using this character in most situations outside of Guild War, where I can set him up to deny a mage from attacking, remove some buffs, or kill a Jhin while holding and tanking a position. If you're neither a fan of the Legend of Hero series and you have limited resources, do not feel bad for skipping on Rean's companion. He's fine at lower skill levels. Overall, Rean's a fun character with a lot of interesting mechanics, and none of them form a character that is a must build. If you want to optimize him, go ahead and commit to pulling for his companions, but if you're on the fence, I say that the Lloyd banner is far more interesting, unique, and valuable than what Rean brings to the table. Anyways, thanks for watching my Rean Mercenary Spotlight. I know I've been pretty bad with uploads recently, but thanks for the support regardless. I'll work on Lloyd and Swin soon. Thanks.